In May of 1915, on a farm in northwest North Dakota, a group of family members and neighbors posed for a photo during a farmers' club picnic. Cousin Torger Soini had one of those new panoramic cameras, the kind that turns slowly from left to right in an arc as it took the picture. Young Jesse Soini and his cousins Homer and Floyd Lean decided it would be fun to try to get into both sides of the photograph. By first posing on the left end of the line of family members, and as soon as they knew the camera was no longer aimed at them, they quickly ran around the back of it. Soon the swiveling lens found them at the other end of the line. Great-Grandpa Julius Lean, seeing their antics, followed them and appeared nonchalantly holding my great-aunt Beatrice in his arms. Earlier this year, my wife and I followed the story of these settlers. Traveling to Norway, to the town of Vang, Norway, we found the farms in which our Soini, Catavold, and Lajord families have lived for hundreds of years. Upon our return, we traveled to Minnesota and North Dakota to visit my many cousins who live on the farms homesteaded by our Norwegian family settlers. One goal of mine in this journey was to learn more about my father's childhood, and to get to know more about the lives of his mother, her parents, and her grandparents. I've read about Norwegian immigration in the 1800s to America, but here was my chance to make it personal. My Norwegian settler story really begins about 1800 in the town of Vang, Norway. Vang is located about halfway up a large fjord in central Norway. Within 5 years, 2 boys and a girl born within a few miles of each other would find their lives linked in a story which would lead to thousands of Soini family members throughout America. The girl, Anne Sugard's daughter Lajord, would first bear a child with John Person Quayle, and he would become the first Soini. 5 years later, she would marry Christopher Larson Heinsiga, and they would have 5 more children. Annie and John Person Quayle, and later Christopher Heinsiga, and their children would live on the Soini farm, which was across the road and up the hill from her parents' farm, the Lajord farm. In 1848, her oldest son, John Johnson Lajord Soin, would leave with 2 of his Lajord cousins and sail to America and rural Minnesota. In 1853, Anne and Christopher followed to Michigan with their 5 children. Within a year, both parents and their youngest daughter, Marith, died of diphtheria. The remaining children were distributed to other local families who traveled west to Goodhue County, Minnesota. 4 of the 5 Soini children married and raised 35 children in America. The Soini family grew up in western Minnesota, and my branch continued on to North Dakota. Anne Lajord's son, John Johnson Lajord Soini, met and married Ingeborg Ovesdatter Catavold in the Holden Lutheran Church in Goodhue County, Minnesota in 1862. Their 3rd child, Anne-Marie Johnsdatter Soini, born in 1865, is my great-grandmother. In 1893, she married the son of another Norwegian immigrant from the fjord next to Vang in Norway, Julius Mikkelsen Lean. Julius and Annie left to homestead land along the railroad line in northwestern North Dakota in 1903. Their farm is the site of the 1915 family picnic photo. Benefiting from Torger Soin's photo studio in Ray, North Dakota, we have formal photos of some of the Soini families at the time of the picnic photo. My grandmother, Edna Lean, was the first daughter of Annie Soini and Julius Mikkelsen Lean. Born in Minnesota, she was 9 years old when she traveled with her parents, her brother, and 2 sisters to Ray, North Dakota. At 19, she married an Irish immigrant city policeman, William Walker Farron, who would later become the town police chief. They would have 4 daughters before my father's birth in 1825. Soon afterward, the family left North Dakota and returned to the town of Benson, Minnesota, near the family farms of Edna's great-uncle, Ole Soini, and his children. During the Depression years, my grandfather left the family. The older daughters left home, and my father was sent back to North Dakota to live on his Uncle Homer's farm. He describes this time as one of the worst of his life and left the family in 1942 to join the Navy and serve in the Pacific during World War II. He would later serve in the Air Force. Aunt Alois is 93 and still living in Benson, Minnesota. I traveled to Benson this fall to introduce myself to her and to her children, my first cousins. She was very gracious to us, is in good health, and seems capable of outliving her mother. During our time in Minnesota, we found and spent time with 4 other cousins, Trudy and Boyd Wasson, Bob and Diane Skogman, Norman and Marlene Miller, and Shirley and Joe Manning. They became invaluable friends to us. Each took us into their homes, shared their knowledge, insight, and love with us. We will be eternally grateful for their friendship and ongoing support. One of the highlights of my visit to Ray, North Dakota was the discovery of Aaron Soini. Aaron and I share great-great-grandparents, and he spent the day we visited with him helping us find our family, their homesteads, and the graves of our family members. Aaron founded the town's credit union and has a rich understanding of the family history and family farm locations. He is a true friend and cousin, and I'm grateful for all he has done for me and my family. With Aaron's help, I was able to find the farms of my Norwegian family settlers and the graves of those pioneers. I spent time in the Wang Church, established by my great-great-uncle. But most of all, I found cousins who welcomed me into their lives, who contributed much to my understanding of their part of the family. With that information, I can now assemble a more accurate picture of the entire Soini family and its experiences from Norway to America.